37 of the 90 can't make the 53-man roster. So when you join the National Football League, you know what that's going to be. You're 1 of 90, you have to earn a spot as one of the 53. But it's a difficult time for players, the head coach, and I would say this position coaches and other members of the organization who have established relationships with the players through whatever roles they have with trainers, equipment people, operations, and so forth.
There's Bill Belichick talking about the difficulty of trimming his roster. A lot of guys let loose today and never to be seen again. Some will be back on the practice squad, and some of the veterans who the Patriots said goodbye to, they might be re-signed later in the season. There were some eye-openers, to be sure. And there were also some ones you could see coming from a mile away. We're going to talk cuts with Phil Perry when he gets in. We're also going to talk to Phil about some of the reporting he did on what the Patriots offense might look like in 2 weeks and why there's a sign of optimism that we can cast our eyes toward. All that more on Tom Curran's Patriots Talk podcast.
It's time, world champion, and there ain't nothing you can do about
it. All right, it's Tuesday. It's 5:21. We don't have all the cuts in the house yet. We got quick slants at 6 o'clock with the great Hey K. Adams. So let's just give a list of some of the more prominent guys who were released. Devin Asiasi, 2020 third-round tight end, released. Now the Patriots have released both of their third-round tight ends from 2020. J.J. Taylor, the electrifying Dion Lewis-ish back, was released. Pass catcher. That certainly indicates to me Ty Montgomery's going to be back and ready to go. Henry Anderson, a former Jets defensive lineman who played well for them. Patriots brought him over, and he really wasn't able to make an impact because of injuries. Also, go down the line, Justin Bethel, a special teamer who made great contributions for the Patriots in the time he was here. He has been released as well. Some of these guys, Anderson, for instance, Bethel, they could re-sign with the Patriots. They are free agents now as vested veterans. That means they don't pass through the waiver process. But guys like J.J. Taylor, they are released and move through the waiver process. Trey Nixon, another guy I should mention, the wide receiver who had really good flash plays in both minicamp and early preseason games. He was released. And you know what? I shed a tear, actually, for the guy I thought of just now. It's Lil Jordan Humphrey, who does have practice squad eligibility, and hopefully he finds his way back because a big wideout / tight end, the Patriots could use him. So that's some of the names that we can go through right now that we know of. And what we can glean from those, we bring in our guy, Phil Perry, right now to talk about it. And there he is, as advertised. The industrial Phil right there in front of a brick wall. What happened? You had to pull over, I understand? You had to pull over because you weren't going to
Yeah, we just had a little traffic issue. And listen, I'm trying to be a good teammate. You've got quick slants in like 20 minutes. People don't know just how much work that our guy TC packs into a very condensed amount of time.
Tuesday's a busy day. We pushed off the pod, which we usually do around 10:30 in the a.m. We pushed the pod off because we didn't want to pod before we knew the cuts. So now that we know the cuts and some of the names again, Henry Anderson, J.J. Taylor, Devin Asiasi, Cam McGrone, who I had as a dark horse Patriots Hall of Famer, a red jacket guy, he has been released reportedly as well. I think that's a stunner for all of us, especially me. But it's going to be a great story. Sets him up for a great comeback. Phil, who jumps off the page to you? Justin Bethel again, another name recognition guy.
Yeah, but really none of them do, right? Do any of these really surprise us?
No, Hank Anderson was a marked man.
Yeah, and I would have said after the first week of training camp, Tom, after the first week of training camp, I would have said, yeah, sure, Henry Anderson's starting because Dietrich Wise is out. But I mean, none of these guys are surprises, and I was told by someone who would know early in the day that don't expect anything seismic when it comes to the cuts. Now, I will say I learned today that the Patriots were kicking around the idea of trades, and I think there was some interest in Isaiah Wynn. Now, as we're recording this, he hasn't yet been dealt as far as we know. This is not a trade deadline. This is a roster cut deadline. So he could be dealt at any moment. In theory.
I have an idea, folks, just so we can save Skull Crusher time on producing and it gets to you. Here's where we do it's called a placeholder. And this is the 45 seconds of intel that we're going to give you in case Isaiah gets traded afterwards. Wow. Huh? I mean, 10 million is a lot. And he was injury prone and he wasn't out there a lot. And he seemed pissed off in the first place, Phil. So I'm just surprised at the to be determined compensation. Phil, you?
Yes, I like this game. This is fun. Because my understanding talking to some other teams around the league is that the barrier to entry for a Isaiah Wynn deal was the money. So $10 million, the fact that somebody was willing to pick that up, that's a little bit of a surprise.
You're going to rent him for $10 million this year, this team that hypothetically just traded for him. Call it the Cardinals, made that trade. I mean, I could see the Cardinals from a mile away, Phil. I'm sure you could too. But you're going to have even the upshot of Isaiah Wynn is you got him for 1 year, $10 million. He hasn't been healthy, and last year was surprisingly ineffective for a guy who started his career as fairly capable. And next year, when he is out there as a free agent, even as a capable free agent who formerly was a left tackle, he's going to be looking for $12 to $15 million because he's a starter and he's 26 or whatever he is. Okay, now back to the real world, presuming that Isaiah Wynn did not get traded. Holy crap, though. Those guys are not surprises. Trey Nixon doesn't drop your jaw a little?
Nope.
Too
just not consistent enough. Listen, if he had continued to be the player that we saw in OTAs and really the beginning of training camp, and he continued to get reps with the ones and perform well, then maybe. But we know even with Tyquan Thornton being hurt, that's a pretty deep position for them. So that one doesn't surprise me. Kevin Harris doesn't surprise me. The offensive lineman, I would say there's one offensive lineman who surprises me a little bit because I thought he had a
Arlington
chance.
Hambright.
No, not I love that name.
I did too.
And hopefully he can stick on the practice squad just so we can continue to utter it.
We've never had an Arlington. We've obviously had a Lynn. We've had a Revere. We've had a Hansen. I'm sure we've had a Whitman. But I don't think there's any way we ever had an Arlington before. We've had a Milton, I'm sure, where Phil grew up. I don't think we've ever had a Pembroke or a Lakeville. Two of the places.
Chatham. You had a Chatham?
Yeah, there was a Chatham.
No, the name is Cody Russi. Cody Russi, I thought, had a good camp. I thought he had and still has a chance. Let's be honest. If he makes the practice squad, I would still call him maybe their most talented interior lineman backup. After the top three that you have, James Ferentz is capable, but talent-wise, I actually liked what we saw from Cody Russi. And so maybe he's able to stick and they can kind of work a way to get him more involved at guard. We didn't see a whole lot of that this summer. I think they want those backups to be able to play all three spots. That's ideally what you're looking for. Mm-hmm. So that one surprised me a little bit, but Tom, I just think that's where this roster is right now is there's not a lot of big surprise cuts to be made. They're not in a position to be cutting anybody that can play some football.
What does J.J. Taylor's release mean for the Patriots offensive backfield on third down?
To me, it tells me that Ty Montgomery's injury probably isn't season ending. It also tells me that the Patriots may feel good enough about Pierre Strong to at least have him not only rostered, but also in uniform to start the year. And those are two very different things because we saw James White as a rookie, Tom, 4th round pick, pass catching guy. He was barely active. I think he was active for somewhere between 2 and 4 games as a rookie. I thought, based on what we saw from Pierre Strong this summer, that he would be in a similar boat. To me, he hasn't really shown that he's ready to contribute. But if Montgomery is hurt enough to miss the beginning part of the season, if not the full season, and then you have Ramondre Stevenson and Damian Harris, to me, you still need one more back in that mix somewhere to feel good about your roster against the Miami Dolphins week 1. So maybe they feel that way about Strong, that no, it's actually okay if we get him in uniform. He can play on a few special teams units and he'd be worthwhile that way.
I just haven't seen enough Pete Strong, period, to even formulate an opinion, for God's sake. We do have to accelerate. We've kind of hammered the hell out of this. We will certainly update if Isaiah Wynn gets dealt. I don't know if we'll just let that hypothetical stand, but leave it in there, John. You never know. I do want to pivot to the Patriots offense. How drastically can the product that we have seen on the field through training camp practices, joint practices, and then preseason games, how drastically can that Patriots offensive product change between now and the fourth quarter of the first game? What have you learned?
I think it can change, and I think it could change potentially significantly so, Tom.
How?
My understanding is the way the Patriots have run their offense this summer has been to keep things as simple as possible. I think on that side of the ball, they're trying to crawl before they can walk, before they can run. Meaning, hear the play call in the huddle, line up correctly, run the play. It's going to be that easy, guys. That's how they tried to operate really all summer, whether it was practices or preseason games.
So could they not run the plays? Is that why it looked like ass? Say it one more time. Were they unable to run the plays? Is that why it looked like ass so often?
I think that's part of it. I think what might even be a more significant part of it is they ran plays into looks that were not ideal. And so we heard Tom Brady years ago talk about how he had the answers to the test. He's not the only quarterback in football who has the answers to the test. He might be the only one who has all the answers to the test. But most quarterbacks in the NFL, especially experienced quarterbacks, have the ability to change a play at the line of scrimmage if they feel like the defensive look they're getting is not going to allow them to have success with the play that's been called. The Patriots have had the ability to do that for a very long time. Mac Jones did it last year quite a bit under Josh McDaniels. You get two plays in the huddle. You can alert at the line of scrimmage. You can change to the other play. You have the ability to change receiver routes. You can change protections, all kinds of freedom at the line. This summer, that stopped as they tried to learn a new system and work with new coaches. So it looked bad, Tom, because they were running plays into looks that gave them no ability to have success.
So is that okay? So we heard Mac Jones talk about process at some points and say, we're just out here running some stuff and seeing how it looks. Run it. We see how it looks on film. We correct it. We do it again. So was this basically the Wright brothers out there just crashing the friggin' plane out in North Carolina, out in Kitty Hawk a few times to see what works? And, you know, sorry, I'm at least I'm away from a car metaphor.
Tom, listen, I think we totally have it. I think it's totally within reason to question the approach. The approach makes no sense to me. Why would you ever run a play into a bad look? And I think that was Josh McDaniels' approach, was why would we ever do that? Why would we ever run? Because even if we get it on film, what is that telling us? Because we're never going to run that play against that defensive front in that manner, going to that side. It's a wasted rep. That's how I think some of the players probably look at this, especially some of the guys that have played under Josh McDaniels and have experience there. So it was the Wright brothers, but did it have to be? It just, to me, that is one of the biggest questions of this entire summer. If those reps were wasted reps because you were running plays that you would never run against particular defensive looks, could you not have been spending your time doing what you will actually be doing in the regular season, which is getting to the line, understanding the defense, and then allowing your quarterback and the rest of the offense to go through the Rolodex that they have built up over time, or even just this offseason, to be able to then change the play and run something better. I just don't understand the approach, and I think it's made them look bad in the process. And Tom, they probably are hurting people's confidence in the process. So I really don't understand what you're trying to do, doing it the way that they did it.
I get it in that anytime we were in practice at any level, there were times you would tell, if you were coaching, which I had the pleasure and opportunity to do for a long time, you tell the kids on the other side of the ball, basketball, baseball, whatever, do this so that these kids can understand that. Like, throw behind the runner, little outfielder guy in Little League, so that he can see the ball come behind him and he runs to the next page, whatever. You know what I mean? And then that gives you the look. So maybe Bill was trying to orchestrate some looks in the preseason and had some kind of opportunity with his defense to do it. I mean, I can't imagine they're taking the practice field and Steve Belichick and Gerard Mayo are calling shit that Bill's like, okay, that's just, we can't, we had no chance there. But all that aside, do you think that some of this, the bigger picture is, we saw Damian Harris during their really miserable practice, short hop a pass and bat it. We saw people punting balls after shitty plays. We saw frustration from Kendrick Bourne. We saw frustration from Trent Brown. We've seen frustration from Mac Jones. Do you think part of that could be traceable to the idea that, what are we doing, guys? We know they've played enough football to know a play is not going to work too. Could that be some of the root frustration?
I think that's totally fair. And I think we've heard them talk about this, whether it's Mac Jones talking about how, we're just kind of running our base plays. You heard that a lot this year. What even is a base play? Is that something that Tom Brady used to say? And maybe he did, and I just don't remember. But since when do they have base plays? They've always been an offense that just runs whatever the defense allows them to run. Hit them where they ain't, essentially. And this summer, it's a lot of, we're just running our base stuff, see what it looks like. I think there are enough players who have enough experience to look at how they've approached this summer and say, why do we have to do it this way? I've been not only in this offense here, but I've been a pro football player for several years. I don't need to do it this way. And Tom, I think honestly, it goes back to, it's a new language, a new system, new coaching staff. So Bill Belichick wants them to start slow, which there's probably some wisdom in that. But I think there's something to the fact that they do have a starting rookie guard who's coming from UT Chattanooga. It's a massive leap for him. They don't want to put too much on his plate too early because they know he needs to play and play right away and play well right away. And so a lot of this has been done, I think, probably with Cole Strange in mind, to just make sure that he's up to speed. But again, I think this is going to change in less than 2 weeks here. So he has 2 weeks between the preseason finale and the regular season opener to get to the point where he can be at the line of scrimmage, hear Mac Jones change the play call, and be able to adapt just like that. It's a lot to expect in not much time, but I think that's what they're hoping for.
What's wild is to hitch your offensive wagon to a guy from UT Chattanooga and allow him to hold hostage the development and progress of the offense if everybody else is good to go. And I don't blame Cole Strange any more than I blame Matt Patricia for being the play caller and offensive coordinator. Cole Strange didn't say draft me and put me down as the starting left guard and don't do anything to advance the offense until I can color between the lines. But he could be a big part of it. So we'll see how it goes. And Phil's reporting actually is certainly cause for optimism. The things that he's saying, he's come to an understanding of that they will accelerate. I do.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Can I just say one thing? Mm-hmm. At the same time, I do think it's reason for optimism. It's also not going to be a panacea, right? Like the fact that Mac Jones now has more freedom at the line of scrimmage doesn't mean that suddenly this offensive line knows how to pick up a blitz, which they couldn't do the one time they were blitzed
against the team that game planned for you.
So,
communication thing.
There are certain things that this is not going to necessarily fix, but I think putting more decision making in the hands of arguably your best offensive decision maker, outside of Bill Belichick, is it going to be a good thing? They're obviously searching for any little bits of improvement they can get, and this should lead them down that road.
All right. I want to talk later in the week when we circle back on Thursday. And of course, next week, folks, the TV product will be coming at you. Tom Curran's Patriots Talk podcast. Thursdays will be on your televisions as well. But when we come back later in the week, because I got to put a cork in this thing and go do quick slants, I want to talk to you a little bit more about the patience and Bill's selling of it, which I have found interesting. We've known for years, and I've pointed this out for well more than a decade, that the NFL season doesn't start until after Columbus Day. The first month is trash. Make no conclusions or sweeping judgments. But Bill Belichick has embraced it and embraced it to the point now where he's saying it could be 6 or 8 weeks, and that was easier for him to do and say when he had the confidence to talk about Tom Brady and Josh McDaniels commandeering the offense. Again, we're hitching their wagon to Tom Brady and Josh McDaniels to say, save the day. Now it's Josh McDaniels, Mac Jones, and Cole Strange. I almost forgot. We got Hunter Henry on the irrelevant questions. Phil, we got hey, what's your number in this one? Enjoy. Pardon me. Enjoy Hunter Henry. Phil, finish your commute. I'm going to go out and get ready for quick slants and see what Hey K Adams has to offer. See you guys. Hope you enjoyed everything. I really have nothing else to offer. Enjoy Hunter. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Hunter Henry, the prolific tight end from Arkansas originally. Do me a favor. Your best representation of any kind of a Boston or New England accent.
Well, you got to roll the Oz. So it's like, Park. My wife's name is Parker.
Okay.
And, a lot of times around here it's Parker. So, and then I'm now become Hunter. So just rolling the R's, I think I've kind of picked up on that.
In my experience, too, is Hunter ends up being Hunnah. Hunter!
Yeah.
Right?
He just kind of rolls off the tongue. So, it is what it is. I'll take it.
I'm going to make one comment here that I didn't expect to make, and this might not even air, but I've never seen whiter teeth on a tight end. How are those teeth so white?
I got a great dentist.
All right, there's a segment in this program, too, that we call, hey, what's your number? And we refer to your number and ask you how exactly you ended up with the number 85. Is that the number you would prefer?
Honestly, I came in, and every place I've been, I've had a new number. But I kind of like that. Like, it's kind of a new thing at every place I go. I think it's also, I played with a guy in Antonio Gates, and so I think it's an honor to kind of don that number.
If you could have one number at all, what would it have been?
Well, I've been a lot of different numbers, so I want to be 85.
Okay, that's the best answer. What number were you in high school baseball? I guarantee you played high school baseball.
I did not play high school baseball.
See, this is when I need to do the advanced work that I didn't do. How about high school basketball?
I did play basketball.
What number? 44.
41. Dirk Nowitzki.
Oh, good. Did you choose it because of Dirk?
I was a freshman and they threw it on me, and then I realized Dirk wore it, and I was like, this guy's sick.
Can you do the one-footed flamingo turnaround from the elbow?
I could not as good as him, but I could hit it every once in a while.
You played for Kevin Kelly at Pulaski Academy, and I know that Kevin Kelly is a mad scientist for football that Bill Belichick actually often speaks with about football philosophy and things he can hatch. What was the wackiest thing that Kevin Kelly hatched for you guys at Pulaski Academy?
Oh, man. Obviously, the no punting is pretty crazy. We did it in the state championship when we were backed up on our own, 5-yard line. It was 4th and 20, and we went for it.
How'd that work out?
We lost that state championship game. So it is what it is. It's all good. But we also, offensively, we did some crazy stuff. I think we did a quadruple reverse pass and then hit it down the field for 60 yards. So, yeah, if you want to go look at the highlights or YouTube stuff, it's pretty crazy.
My guy, thank you so much, and good luck. We got a little ways until the opener, but good luck.
Thank you.